because theme trips are meant to be fun. Like all trips are meant to be fun. Like that, I feel like that's kind of like a general statement. But come on, a themed trip is meant to just be over the top fun.
Hey there, and welcome to the Digital Nomad Family Podcast. This is the place where families who have or want to have a nomadic lifestyle come together to talk about the highs and lows that this life brings. We celebrate the joys and support each other in the hard. So, if you are a digital nomad family or will be in the future, this is the place for you. We're glad you're here.
Hey guys, how's it going? Marissa here for the Digital Nomad Family Podcast, which you know because you read that on the title picture, right? But I always feel like I should say it because I just like it. I like the fact that this is a podcast for digital nomad families. And it's funny because Eric and I, yesterday or this morning, it was very recently, we were just discussing this and how a lot of people will say that they are a digital nomad, and then you get in and you hear more about their story, and they have a really awesome story. I'm not taking away from their story, but you're like, oh, okay, like you're a traveler, and then you go back to your passport country for a while, and then you work on that content, and then you go back and you do more traveling, and then you go back and you work on that content, and that's a really cool way to live. I'm not saying that that's not. I just would put that in its own type of category. And I would love to do either a very short series or just maybe a longer episode one day on the different types of being a full-time traveler. So when I say Digital Nomad Family Podcast, what I'm talking about is my family has gotten rid of almost everything in our passport country, which is the United States of America. And we travel the world. And we go from one country to the next. And we've been in Costa Rica now for a very long time, and we will be here for a very long time. And by a very long time, I mean, in the end, we'll have been here for a year. And even that, I'm going, man, like as a traveling family, we ain't doing much traveling. You know what I'm saying? And we are getting to see different parts of Costa Rica, and I'm excited to talk to you guys about that in some upcoming episodes. But yeah, it's interesting, and just living this life is very unique. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but I'm just glad for this community to have it and to have people that are open-minded, open with their lifestyles, open with their ideas. It's just really nice to be able to be like, hey, our family travels for all 12 months of the year. Our family travels, maybe we do 3 months on and 3 months off and 3 months on. Our family has a home base and we use that. There's so many different types of full-time travel family, and there's space for everyone at the table. And I just think that's really cool. So with all that being said, I really should get better at like planning what I'm going to say at the beginning, because I start recording and then I just start talking, and sometimes that's good and sometimes it's not good, right? I'm sure sometimes you guys are like, Marissa, what in the world are you talking about? But I do like talking just about this lifestyle. And today's episode goes very much in this idea of there are different types of travelers, because what we're going to talk about today can be applied to anybody. This can actually, and I don't have a lot of episodes like this, but this can actually be applied to someone that's just going on a vacation. And I'm excited about it. So if you know someone that is not a full-time traveler, but they're getting ready to go on a trip, especially if they want to have a theme for their trip, shoot them this episode, because it will be helpful. If you are someone that has received this episode by someone saying, hey, I know you're getting ready to head to Australia and you want your trip to be this theme, or you're getting ready to head to Ireland or somewhere in the United States or Mexico or anywhere in the world, and we know you want to have a theme for your trip. If you're listening and you never plan to be a full-time traveler, that's okay. Welcome. Hi, I'm Marissa. You're more than welcome here. And I love helping people plan all kinds of trips. And I joke that I don't believe in past lives. But if I did, I totally would have been a travel agent in a past life. And so I think that is a really, really fun job. And I love it. And the episodes that we have like this, where I kind of get to dabble in helping people as a quote unquote travel planner or anything like that, I just love it. Please keep in mind, though, that all of the things I say on this show, I'm not. Like, I didn't go to school for travel planning. This is just my ideas, my opinions, and take them with a grain of salt. If I say something and you're like, oh, that's not a good idea, it's probably not a good idea. And that's okay. Like, that's just how it is. And don't listen to it. But today in this episode, we're going to talk about planning a themed trip. And this honestly can apply to anyone, like I was saying. It can apply to me and my family, who are full-time travelers. We put everything we own in backpacks and go to another place. Or it can apply to someone that is living a rooted life, but they're getting ready to go on a trip, but their kids are in love with this movie or this book or this theme or anything. And you're like, I want the trip to be all about this. And what a fun way to do a trip. I think that trip planning in general, especially if you're not used to it, it can feel very overwhelming. And so I love doing episodes that kind of help people hone in on just a little bit of their ideas, that help them create a space that will organize their ideas. And I just really like that. I love helping people. That's like one of my biggest things. I have the gift of hospitality, which I didn't know about until like a year ago. And when I found out that I had the gift of hospitality, it made so much sense, because I love making people feel comfortable and welcome. And on the podcast, I hope that comes through as well. Like, I want you guys to feel welcome, and I want to help people, and I want to make people feel comfortable, whatever they're doing. So this is my way to kind of hone into a gifting that I have and just help you. And so as we think about planning a trip, there are a lot of different aspects to that, from travel, from accommodations, to activities, to food, to events, whatever you want to put in there. There is a lot sometimes you have to worry about visas. There is a lot that you have to get a grip on. And so to help you with this, I have created just a one-page, it's not a template, but we'll call it a template. And it's just a way to help you organize your thoughts and give you just a place to keep everything. Because sometimes it can be like, oh my goodness, there's just so much happening with planning this trip. I don't know where I'm going to put it all. So what I would recommend is, in the show notes, you'll see the link to the trip planning, the theme trip planning document, and just go download it. And I would recommend opening with the app GoodNotes. So whether you're on your iPad, whether you're on your phone, doesn't matter. It's an amazing app. I love it so much. And you can take PDFs and you can really just interact with them in a way that sometimes you can't with other apps, or just by opening the PDF on your computer. So I would recommend downloading the theme trip planning PDF and then opening it with GoodNotes. Because then you can drop links, you can write things in there. It's wonderful. I love GoodNotes so much. So I'm just going to kind of work through this document. And if you've been listening to the podcast for a long time, you know that I actually have a full trip planning guide. That is different than this. So if you remember that and you downloaded that, thank you so much. Glad you did. This is different. This is specifically for a theme trip, because while there are a lot of crossovers, and if you are planning a theme trip, I would recommend downloading the trip planning guide, and I have a link to that as well in the show notes. But using them together could be really powerful. But if you feel like, oh, I know how to plan a trip, I just want a place to organize better, I want some ideas on how to create a successful themed trip, then this one PDF is going to be sufficient. And so all that this document is going to do is allow you to keep track of websites, ideas, your Google map that you have connected with this trip, anything you want to buy. Like, we're going to walk through it, but this document is really powerful, and it's going to be like your one-stop shop as you're planning your trip, because you can just keep everything together. Because I don't know about you guys, as I'm planning a trip, there can be up to, I don't know, I think there's probably been up to 20 tabs open on my computer with various things. And I'm like, oh shoot, did I close that one tab? With this, you don't have to worry about it. Just copy and paste it into the PDF and you're good to go. So the first thing, as you are thinking about planning a theme trip, is you want to get a concrete theme, and then you want to figure out where you're going because of that theme and how involved you want the theme to be in all the areas of the trip. So let me go through those a little bit in more detail. So the first one is a concrete theme. You want it to be very specific. The broader the theme, it's actually going to be a little bit harder to create a trip around it, because it could take you in so many directions. So if you have a theme in mind, make sure it's narrow enough that you can be like, okay, I know exactly where we're going to go connected with this trip. Let's say your theme, because this can be a history theme, okay? This can be any theme, okay? Fashion, history, food, television, book, doesn't matter. But everything is going to be connected to this theme. If you say the theme of your trip is a history time period, that's going to be too broad. And so my family, when we were in Istanbul a few years ago, we were studying World War II. Well, that in and of itself, and then we wanted to do some traveling connected to World War II. That was too big of a theme. There's just too many things to see and do that are connected to World War II that we would have been in multiple countries, a few different continents. Like, it was too broad. So we had to narrow it down. And we did that by finding a book. And this book allowed us to really narrow down our World War II trip, if you will. It wasn't really a trip. It was just the cities that we decided to visit because they were connected to this book that we read. And it was a really fantastic experience just from the history point of view. The kids were at really appropriate ages for the book that we read. It's called Yellow Star. And so if you have younger kids and you're looking for a way to talk about some of the things that happened in World War II, this is specifically about a young girl, and her family was put into a ghetto in Poland. And so it's very much on the Holocaust side of World War II. And so that's what we did. We focused on that. So make sure your theme isn't too broad. If you just say, maybe you like a certain television show, and it's like, oh, well, this show is set in New York City. That's probably going to be too broad. New York City is a very big city. And if it's a show that is set in New York City, there's going to be a lot of different landmarks you're going to want to see. So maybe you can pick a few of your favorite episodes and say, okay, everyone pick a favorite episode, and we're going to create a trip based off of those episodes of this show that takes place in New York City. That kind of thing. I'm not saying change your theme. Just make sure it's not too broad. If it's too broad, you're going to feel overwhelmed. There's going to be too much stuff to do. And then it shifts from this enjoyable experience to, if we're not moving every minute of the day, we're not going to see everything we want to see, and then I'm going to feel like the trip was a bust. And you don't want to set yourself up for that, because you definitely still want some downtime on all your trips. You need some downtime. So think about your theme. And then the second thing you're going to want to ask yourself is, how involved will the theme be in all areas of the trip? So we have from food to clothing, travel methods. There is so much you can do with a theme to make it really saturated into your trip. And you just want to ask yourself, how much do we want to do that? My favorite television show in the world is Downton Abbey. So let's say I were to plan, and I have some girlfriends that they also love Downton Abbey. So let's say I tell them, hey guys, I'm going to plan a trip to England, and the theme is going to be, it's going to be a Downton trip. Well, they traveled by train a lot in Downton Abbey. So I could be like, okay, well, we're going to use, once we get to England, we're going to use train as our primary means of transportation. We're not going to rent a car. We're not going to do public transportation. We're going to find as many ways to train as we can. Not that training isn't a public transportation, it is, but you know what I mean. We're not going to use like buses. We're going to try to train to as many places as we can. You can do that. You can say, hey, there in this time period that this thing happened, that this book was written, that this show took place, all these things, they didn't have cars. And so maybe you find a way to ride some horses on your trip. Like maybe you can't ride horses the entire time. I get that. But you can find a place that has horseback riding, and you can say, hey, since they rode horses a lot, we're going to ride horses. And so there's just all these things that you can do to ask yourself, how involved do we want it to be? There are certain food items in a lot of books and a lot of television series that you can try to put those included into your trip. So just how involved do we want this theme to be in all parts of the trip? Clothing is another thing I've seen people do. You can do like a costume for a day. That's a choice you can make. I think that's fine if that's what you want to do. Just make sure everyone knows about that. There's so much you can do to try to saturate your theme through all areas of your trip. And by costumes, I don't mean like you have to go all out and maybe like buy a full-on costume, but maybe you want to do some shirts. Like you want to do a shirt for everyone in the group that's based off of your theme, maybe based off of the year you're going, these things. So like, but don't let clothing confuse you. Maybe there is a special hat that you want to get everybody, or a special pair of sunglasses or something like this, to just really hone in on that theme of like, hey, maybe a character in the book, they have a scarf that they always wear, or a certain pair of shoes, or just something like that. And you can talk to the group and be like, hey, because this character that we all love is in this thing that we're theming our trip off of, in honor of that, let's also get a pair of sunglasses, get a scarf, get a pair of shoes, or whatever. There's a lot you can do with it. And I know that maybe some people might roll their eyes at that, but it's the little details like that can really take a themed trip to a trip that you went on where you saw some places that were connected to an idea versus an actual themed trip. And so I think both are fine, but if like I said, it's just those little details that can be like, oh, this really put it over the top. I am going to remind you though, and this is why I think it's a good idea if you're planning a trip like this, to download this PDF. All of these things add up to your budget. And so you're going to want to keep that in mind and just talk to everyone so that they know what the budget is becoming, what their portion is. Because I think it's really fun to be like, oh, everyone's going to buy this hat. Everyone's going to buy this purse. Everyone's going to have this bag. Everyone's going to have these sunglasses. We're going to get custom shirts made for everybody. That's super fun. You just need to keep in mind that it is going to change. It's going to impact the budget, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you download the PDF for this, you're going to see that there is spaces here that you can just keep track of all of these things. Okay, so I'm not going to tell you, oh, and there's a space beside here that you can keep track of it. It's there. For every section, that we're talking about, there's a space for you to go in and put some websites, type your ideas in, whatever you want to do. So that is the kind of the first thing, is get a concrete theme, figure out how saturated the trip is going to be with the theme, and just really think it through. And that, for me, that is the really fun part, because you can just get with your friends, get with your family, and say, hey, we're getting ready to go on this fill in the blank theme. Is there anything special maybe we would want to buy, we would want to have, we would want to get custom made to go along with this theme? So I think that's a lot of fun. And I have a lot of fun in the dreaming of that, and like, oh, it could be really fun that whenever we go to this place, what if we all have this with us? I think that's a lot of fun. The second section I have is for general research. And I think because of the fact that we're so used to the internet, I think we forget how fantastic it is sometimes, because we're just so used to it now. But I remember when the internet came into my house and I was able to do my very first research project with the internet from my parents' computer room. And that was a game changer. And I think now there are moments where we take it for granted, and we don't want to do that. We don't want to take the good old www for granted, right? And so research, watch YouTube videos, read blog posts, and keep track of them. Copy and paste them. Don't lose them. And anytime we are planning a trip, I'm planning a trip for my family, I feel this tension between, okay, that's what they did, but is it what I want? Because just because they had fun with it, just because it worked out well for them, doesn't mean it's going to work out well for us. And I always feel this tension. But I don't want to lose the ideas. And so I like to have a place where I can just keep track of all my ideas, and then I can noodle on them. I can go back, I can look at it, and I can say, okay, they did this. What if we adjust it to this? What if we do it this way? And I love to do that, because one of the most fantastic things about planning a trip for your own group, whether it's your family, whether it's a friend group, whether it's a couple families, doesn't matter. The best thing about planning it is that you're in charge. And so just because you see someone on a YouTube video, just because they saw the city in one way, doesn't mean you have to see it that way also. You're allowed to have your own experience. And sometimes I think because of just the power that influencers have nowadays, sometimes I fear that we have lost that, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it's almost like we need permission to make it ourselves. Because it's like, oh, well, they went to this ice cream stall while they were in this city, and they have a lot of followers, and that means I should go to that ice cream stall as well. It doesn't. Like, you don't have to. It's okay. If you go to Rome and you start researching, you're going to see so many people that have done so many YouTube videos and blog posts about all the gelato places you have to go to. You don't have to go to them. You can do your own research, and you can say, hey, these 3 look like they would really mesh with our family. I like the way it's decorated. I like the location. I like the name. Doesn't matter. And so this is me giving you permission to definitely watch the YouTube videos, read the blog posts, listen to the podcast, but just know at the end of the day, if you change it up, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You took an idea and you made it fit for your family, and that's a fantastic skill to have. So that's the second point. My third one is, I love this, okay? I really want to do a podcast just on this third point. However, it's a visual thing, and I just don't think a podcast is the best way to do it. So I don't know. Let me know. If you think a podcast, then I haven't said it yet, so that's not fair, is it? It's Google Maps. If you think a podcast episode all about Google Maps would be helpful to you, please let me know. Shoot me an email. It's down there in the show notes. And just let me know, like, hey, Yes, it's more of a visual thing. And so it does lend itself better to a YouTube or like I don't know, Instagram thing, anything visual. And this is a talking show. You can't see me. But I love Google Maps. And the more I get into Google Maps, the more fantastic it is. So make a Google Maps for your trip. You can make a custom map. And what I would recommend is get all the ideas from everybody, all the people that are going to have an opinion about the places you go, get where they want to go, and then you're going to be able to pin all those locations around the city, around the state, whatever you're doing around, if it's a small country, around the country, you're going to be able to pin them all. Then the great thing is you can go in and then create day 1, day 2, day 3. And so then that way, everyone that has access to this map can see, and they can just know, okay, day 1, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. Okay, day 2, we're doing this, and then we're going to go over here, and then day 3, it's these things. How powerful is that? I mean, that is such a powerful tool that I don't think it's used enough, especially in group trip planning. And so definitely take advantage of that. And so as you are pinning all these things in Google, what I would recommend is pin them all, get everyone's ideas, pin them all, then share that with the group to look at. Sadly, and I have looked and looked and looked, you guys, I really have. I've spent probably too much time trying to figure out if more than one person can be a contributor, that was a tricky word to say, contributor to a Google map, like be in charge of it kind of. And I'm not finding a way to do it. The only way I'm finding to do it is, let's say you and I were going on a trip. We would talk about all the places we wanted to go. I would be making the Google map, so I would pin all the places. Then I would send it to you and I would say, hey, can you just give this yes, these are the places I want to go. If I have forgotten any, please tell me and I'll make sure to mark it as well. Then after that, I'll go in and I'll create the days. And if you have input on the days, that's great. Tell me, hey, I really want to do these 2 things together. Since this place is farther away, maybe it should be its own day or whatever. I'm not saying that the editor of the Google map should be totally in control and not take the opinion of others into consideration. No, talk about it, but only one person can do the actual physical editing. So then I would go in and I would say, okay, I'm going to adjust these into days, and then I can share it with you again, and you can look at the different days. I am currently doing this for a trip that my in-laws, we're going to take an extended trip here in Costa Rica with them in like 3 months, almost 3 months. And so I am working on our Google Maps. So then that way they can go and they can look and say, okay, day 1, okay, we're going to go here. We're going to drive. Okay, I can see how long the drive is. And then we're going there. And then day 2, we're going to do this. And the great thing is, let's say you're going to the beach and you want a day just at the beach. You just mark that, your hotel, your resort, your Airbnb, whatever it is, you just mark that. And that's all you have on like day 3. And then you just say, on this day, we are, you just tell them like, hey, the only thing we're doing on this day is we're at home. We're at the beach. We're at the pool. We're at whatever, right? Maybe you're going to the mountains and you just want to have a day of relaxing in the mountains, whatever. That's all that's on that day. And that's going to help people see how much okay, day 1, we don't have a lot. Day 2, we have a ton. Day 3, we have an okay amount. Day 4, we only have one thing. And that's going to help people feel comfortable with how much they're doing. Because the worst thing is when you feel like all you're doing in a trip is going. Because you're just going to get burnt out and you're not going to enjoy it in the same way. So I understand that some days do have more than others. It happens. But we want to make sure that there's still time to rest. So like, let's say one day is just go. We're probably going to be walking anywhere from 4 to 5 miles with all the things we're going to be seeing, all the sites we're going to go to, all the stuff we're doing. Well, then the next day, maybe you don't do anything until the evening. or the afternoon or something. And you just take it a more chill morning time. And that's what the great thing about Google Maps is you can really help people see how the trip is going to flow. So I would recommend going in and making a My Google Maps and then getting all the sites and then adjusting it by days. If you would like to hear a podcast episode about how to do that, please let me know, because I'm really going back and forth on it, because there's a lot of really good YouTube videos on it. And I'm like, does it really make sense for me to do a podcast episode when you can just watch a YouTube video about it and actually see it? But if for whatever reason you're like, no, Marissa, we want you to do it. Okay, just tell me. That's fine. So that's the third thing. Create your Google Maps. And then the last thing that I have on here is all the special little things. And by this, I mean, maybe you want to do goodie bags. Let's say, so my girlfriends and I here in Costa Rica, we're getting ready I say getting ready, but when I say that, I mean, it's going to be a few weeks. In June, and I'm recording this in April. So in 5 weeks, because it's the end of April now. So in 5 weeks, we're going on a girls' trip to the beach. Well, I want to make it a little more special. It's not a theme trip, unless the theme is girls' weekend, which totally could be. But I want to make it a little more special. And so I'm getting everybody, and all of these women are, they're not full-time travelers. They are actually because there's going to be 4 of us. So there's me, who's a full-time traveler, and the other 3 are missionaries. They are here in Costa Rica to learn Spanish. So then they can go, one is staying in Costa Rica to do ministry here, but then 2 of them are headed to the Dominican Republic to do ministry in the DR. And so while they're not full-time travelers, they are definitely expats, for sure. And so something that I want to do special for them is I want to get them not a lunchbox, but a big lunchbox. What are those things? A cooler, a big lunchbox. These are things that I should edit out, but I don't. A big lunchbox, a cooler. I want to get them a cooler because my one friend that's staying here in Costa Rica, they're headed over to the Pacific. And so they're definitely going to need something like that. And the 2 that are headed to the DR, they can totally use something like that. And I'm getting it a big enough one that they can either use it to go to the beach or to go to a pool or a park or something like that. Or if you need to run to the grocery store and you want to put some stuff in a cooler bag, because the DR is hot and here in Costa Rica, the beach is hot. It's just hot in these countries all the time. And so I was like, this would be a really great gift for them. And so my plan is get these things. I also bought some embroidery patches to put on to kind of customize each of because they're a soft. See, this is why I shouldn't do that Google thing, because me trying to describe physical things is just not working. Imagine that soft fabric that some lunch boxes are, but it's a cooler. It's a cooler bag. And so I'm getting embroidery patches to customize them. And then I'm going to put, when it gets closer to the time, I'll put snacks and drinks that I know each of them really like. And so that's going to be my thing to make the trip special. And I love doing stuff like that. Again, that goes back to my hospitality gift. I just love to make people feel appreciated. I like them to feel comfortable and just at ease. And having a little gift like that can really set the trip up on a positive note. And so think through, okay, what are the special little things that I want to have? I know a lot of people, my sister is one of them, my older sister is one of them. They went on a Disney cruise and they had things for every day. She thought out, okay, day 1, I'm going to have this for the kids. Day 2, I'm going to have this. And that can be a really special thing as well. So just thinking through, is there something special happening that I'm going to want to have this thing to just really give it that special moment. If you're celebrating someone's birthday, is there a card you can get to have everybody sign? Maybe you don't want to take birthday gifts, I get that. But can you get a card and have everyone sign it? Can you take a portable printer and print out pictures and do something with that? Like, what can you do to just make that birthday dinner a little more special? Just put it over the top a little bit. And there's space to keep all of that, to write your ideas down. And this last section is really what separates, I feel like there's a lot that separates this PDF from the trip planning guide that I've already made, because it's stuff like this that you want for a theme trip. You want those special things. You want maybe to have matching pairs of socks for everyone for some reason, I don't know, or a book that you want to have and you want to read a part of the book, or whatever it is that is going to go along with this themed trip, that's really going to stick out in people's minds of going, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you did that. That just really made the night special. That just really made that day stand out to me. And that's what separates this PDF from the trip planning guide. So if you haven't gotten the trip planning guide and you want just it's very helpful. Like, not to toot my own horn, but it's a really great guide. If you're like, hey, I'm not thinking about a themed trip, but I do want a little bit of help planning a trip, go to the website, the link's in the show notes, and download that. But if you're like, no, I really want to plan a themed trip, whether you're a full-time traveler or not, you're just going on a vacation and you want it to be themed, this is the PDF you want. And so I hope whatever theme you're working on, you just have an amazing time with it. I've mentioned in the past a little bit, but I do consulting. Again, I am not a travel advisor. I'm just a girl with ideas and experience, okay? But I do love to do this, and sometimes it can be helpful to get an outsider's perspective. So if you're planning a theme trip, or you think you're going to plan a theme trip and you would like some help, like I said, I do consulting, and you can always reach out to me and ask me about that. And I would be very happy to jump on a Zoom with you at some point and talk to you about your theme trip, give you some ideas. That's so much fun for me. I love doing that kind of stuff. So as you're planning your trip, as you're using this PDF, allow yourself to dream. And the great thing about this, nothing is set in stone. This is just a way to gather ideas. You can put as many ideas in here as you want, and then you can go, oh, nope, I have to eliminate that. That needs to go. We don't have time for that. We don't have the budget for that. No one likes this idea, and that's fine. But it's better to have it all together, and then you can go through it, and then you can really make your choices versus forget something, because that's the worst. Like, the worst is to be like, oh my gosh, I totally meant to buy this or have this thing that's at my house and I wanted to bring it, but I just forgot. And we just kick ourselves for that sometimes, right? So the point of this is to just help you keep everything together and allow you to daydream and just make this trip whatever you want it to be and just have so much fun with it. Because theme trips are meant to be fun. Like, all trips are meant to be fun. Like that, I feel like that's kind of like a general statement. But come on, a themed trip is meant to just be over the top fun. And so that's what I want for you guys. If you're planning a trip like this, have fun with it. Like, have fun with the planning, have fun with the dreaming, and have fun with the doing. So that's it. That's the document. If you want it, it's in the show notes. Check it out. And I hope this was helpful. I had a lot of fun thinking about this. I had a lot of fun creating this PDF. So I hope that you guys have fun as well. And I hope you continue to travel joyfully.